Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Lumberjack Landlord. Feeling a little bit under the weather today, so please forgive me. It kind of hurt. Got my beard in my zipper. Anyway, hope you guys have had an absolutely fantastic week. I see my buddy Dion. Howdy, my friend. Good to see you. It was a crazy busy week this week. Real job mostly. Real estate a little bit, but had the pleasure to spend some time with friends and fellow colleagues and fellow investors at the multi-family Robin Hood Resort. Wasn't there in person, but was certainly there in spirit. Got to spend time with Dion and Millennial Mike, and then Cody and Christian from Multifamily Strategy. So that was a lot of fun. Being able to spend some time there and speak yesterday about property management and self-management. And so it was interesting because even during that time, having that conversation, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Lumberjack Landlord. I've got 138 units active, and I'm going to be adding another 10 or 12 over the course of the next 6 to 12 months as our projects finish. And so we have a number of projects kind of working through now, got rehabs and bought a jail and some other cool stuff. So if you're here to learn about real estate, I'm here to teach you what I've done, and hopefully it works for you. But one of the things that was kind of a theme in yesterday's conference that I thought was, kind of telling, because it's a lot of investors, and it was everybody's still asking the question of when is the right time to buy, right? Everybody's always trying to time the market. Everybody's always trying to look into the crystal ball. Everybody's trying to find the guy who guessed right. Mike Zuber often talks about, from One Rental at a Time, often talks about, Norris, who is a big investor. He timed the market perfectly. He told everybody, sell, 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 sell. And so when he told everyone to sell, a lot of people sold, and they sold out of, single family assets at the absolute peak of the market. And people started buying multifamily assets, larger stuff, 10, 20, 30, 40 unit stuff, and buying them at a fraction of the cost because of the Great Recession back in 08, 9, and 10. So what was interesting is that person guessed right. You guys have probably heard of Kyle Bass, who's a big time investor that invested, and basically shorted the market. You guys have seen the movie The Big Short. That was based on an investment team that at the time was a part of, I believe they were a part of Merrill. But what was really interesting was, they were betting against the housing market while others weren't. There were very few people who guessed right the Great Recession. We are in that boat again. There are very few people that are guessing right. There's the crash bros that continue to remain wrong. They continue to find little pockets that validate their story, but large point is everybody that didn't invest in real estate in 2020, 2021 has lost out in the greatest gains in history. Even if people give back 20% of those gains, BFD, doesn't matter. Really just doesn't matter. What I will tell you is that my best strategy for buying in the market is buying a great deal when I buy it. That's why I have zero ability to tell you, am I going to buy 10 deals this year or 2 deals this year or 20 deals this year? I have no clue. I was talking about it with Mrs. Lumberjack last night. We'll call her Ashley because that's her name. But I was talking with her about it last night. What was really interesting was, in talking with her about it last night, I said, I don't really feel the need for us to add a bunch of assets. And I said, I don't feel the need to sell a bunch of assets. I said, I really feel like what we've been doing for the last kind of couple years has been only buying great deals that we can do value add on. The fact of the matter is that you don't want to be a person purchasing at retail. You don't want to be buying that thing that everybody else on the market is going to be looking at on MLS. You don't want that. Those are still going for over asking price. They are. Factually speaking, I talk to agents every single week, and they said they've actually had a couple things go over ask. I said, interesting. And I said, what was the common theme? They said it was move-in ready. It's perfect. Got it. So just like always, retail ready product rules the day. As you get more stories, or what I call baggage, baggage like the queen, So something like when she travels, it's something like 96 pieces of luggage. And I think that's for an overnight trip, but I digress. The thing that people consistently are making the mistake on in real estate investing is trying to time the market perfectly. The world was telling you in '07 that it's going to just keep on going up. All the home builders, it's going to keep on going up. Everybody's going to keep on going up. The issue is that they weren't looking at the entire system. They weren't looking at the fact that people not worthy of credit were getting credit, and they were getting bad credit. Credit that was going to change their lives. Credit that they couldn't maintain and withstand if any part of their life changed. They couldn't afford the house when they started. Hence, there were deals out there where people were getting pick a payment or 108% of the actual loan to value on the property. 108, meaning you're getting paid to buy property. The issue is that was 52% of the system. 52% of deals being done in those 5, 6, 04, 05, 06 were ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. Because people were buying these adjustable rate mortgages, they were getting a much lower payment to start. That lower payment after 2 years would balloon, then they couldn't afford it anymore. But the problem was their off-ramp was being able to refinance that property. They could no longer refinance that property because values started going down. So what ended up happening? They couldn't afford the payment. The banks weren't willing to work it out. They're like, this is a little problem. We're just going to not work it out, and we're just going to take the house back. It's a foreclosure. The problem is that it then created this massive glut of foreclosures for these banks where they had to get bailed out by the government. And worst of all is that they couldn't actually then release all of the assets onto the market at once, because then you'd have 10 million properties on the market with only 1.2 million buyers. That's a problem. That would force prices down even faster. So what they did was there were literally assets that these banks carried on their balance sheets for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They would do that purposefully because they couldn't let all of the supply come back on the market all at once. They needed to slowly let it leak into the market, thus to not create this massive amount of product on market that no one could buy. All their lending standards changed. So what ends up happening in these types of market adjustments is all of a sudden everybody starts not lending to the borderline borrowers. They look at it and say, all right, I no longer now do these loans where I can do 108%. Now I'm doing, you got to have 10% down. Well, that cuts your market of buyers in half, if not even more. The idea that we create these boom bust effects with these social programs where they talk about, hey, everybody has to own a house. That's a horrible idea. Not everybody should own a house. I've met Rennie or renter that should never own a house ever in their life, ever, because they can't figure anything out. They have no interest in figuring anything out, and they really, truly need everything done for them. They're best with a landlord. So when you look at your market, the thing that you need to be doing is evaluating deals and buying great deals that give you great returns. The best way to do that, I've found, is to do value add. You find properties as many different ways as you can. You start reaching out to wholesalers. You start looking at that list like I talked about last week, where you actually talk to your city about your code enforcement list and the people that have been sent violations in the last 30 days. This is absolute gold and how I find deals still in this market today. So my barrier of entry is I want to see a massive return. After my repair value, I want to be in the high teens, low 20s% return. And so right now, are deals hitting that? No. But for people that are brand new to this and just starting, they can find a 12% deal. They can find a 13% deal. It's going to be value add. They're going to have to probably invest in my course, which is investing in yourself, to figure out what's the type of debt that I use for this? How do I then engage banks to get that type of debt? How do I then manage my contractors through the process? How do I work with code enforcement officials? Then when I'm finally done the project, how do I properly market this asset to get my absolute best return? What are the organizations that I can work with to help the affordable housing issue? What are the different groups that are of people and shoppers in that market, potential clients or tenants in that market that then need what type of an asset, right? This is all the work that's done up front. That means that you don't have to find an asset on MLS that's going to guarantee you 7%. Guys, 7%? Ugh. For 5.5, I'll go buy a T-bill, right? That's where the argument of, do you want to just stick your money in T-bills, or do you want to go buy a house and an asset and doesn't matter, right? Why would I go and try and do all this work for 1.5? I wouldn't. I want to see bigger returns. Well, what's the way that I get bigger returns? I'm the investor that's going to create value. I want to create value in the asset that I purchase. So when I hear all the conversation about just stop, guys, just stop. You're not going to find this 14% yielding deal that gives you a 14% return on your capital in the MLS that's ready, that you just have to put tenants in tomorrow at above market rents. Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So I think what's really important to recognize about this market is that this is the perfect market to, yes, be disciplined in what you would purchase, but creating your network, spending as much time as you can talking to as many people as you can, wholesalers, real estate agents, other investors. There are investors all up and down the spectrum. There are investors that own assets today that they don't want to own because they're junk in their eyes. They've gotten tired of fixing it. And it's because they're doing it wrong. They're not band-aiding it. I have bought a number of properties that if the people just said, hey, I just want to hire you as a consultant and have you help me fix this, I could help them fix it, and they wouldn't have needed to sell their property. The number of times that I talk to investors that are then getting rid of an asset because it doesn't fit their portfolio or because it's consistently underperformed, very often it's indicative of them as the portfolio manager. I buy assets from other investors all the time. That I drastically increase the profitability of the asset just by making the appropriate repairs, listening to the tenants and what they're looking for, and curating an experience for them that is a better experience than others. Admittedly, when I travel, a lot of times when I'm traveling on the road, if I'm driving, I'll stay at like a Red Roof Inn. Doesn't bother me. I'm not looking for some amazing experience. I'm looking for park in front of my room and jump in my bed, sleep for 5 or 6 hours, and then I'm back on the road again. I'm looking for inexpensive lodging. Then there's other times where it's like when I'm flying somewhere, a lot of times I'll spend it in a very nice hotel. When we fly to Vegas, there are 2 hotels that I stay in all the time. And they are gorgeous hotels, but I'm paying for that curated experience. And that's what we as landlords have to be able to do. You guys know the story. When we buy a building, our plan is not just, let's gut the place. Let's get everybody out of here. We got to get them out because we got to raise all these rents. That's never, ever, ever the plan. We look at this and we say, this is somebody's home. We want them to be able to stay as long as possible. But what we also need to do is we also need to buy these dilapidated or bad projects, these bad houses. And again, not houses, multifamilies, 2s, 3s, and 4s, sometimes 5s and 6s. We're working on a 5 right now. And the building was disgusting. The building had to be gone through. And so we gutted the entire thing to studs. We gave everybody notice. We let them know exactly what we were doing. And we said, you know what? It's going to be a year and a half. We gave everybody time. There was still one hanger on at the end. They didn't want to leave. I completely understand, but it's not responsible of me as a landlord to have you in a building that's that bad. And I bought it, and I told everybody why I bought it, that we wanted to go through the entire building, because the amount of horrible patch job repairs that were done on that building over the last 20 years were an absolute joke. It created a bunch of life safety issues, and I'm not going to sleep well at night having somebody in a building that, frankly speaking, the reason I bought it was because it was so bad. You know it's a bad unit when you talk to the fire chief and you talk to the town building inspector and they say, really, you bought that? Oh man, that's fantastic. Yeah, that thing's needed a lot of work for a long time. I agree. That's exactly where we are. So what I would encourage you to do is stop trying to become an economist. Stop trying to have a crystal ball. Stop trying to guess at what the perfect mix between payment and rates are. Do you know that I've bought deals almost every single year for the last 20 years? It's because I was looking for the great deal. I built slowly, I built deliberately, and I believed that slow was smooth and that smooth ended up being fast. So now we fast forward 20 years into my journey, a little over, but we fast forward 20 years into the journey. I have 138 revenue performing assets. I got another 10 or 12 that we're going to add in the next 6 or so months with these different projects. But most importantly, I built a network. I built skills. And these are all the things that my course tries to teach people is here's how to build that network. Here's how to build those skills. Here's how to manage these projects. Here's how to interact with your tenants, and giving everybody all the cheat codes that I have done over the last 20 years that helped me build the business. So if you're finding yourself struggling, still trying to find a great deal, just recognize that you can create a great deal, but it takes a lot more work right now. That's why 2 years ago, I bought 20 deals, or I bought 24 deals, or I bought, what is it, 24 deals in 22 months or 24 deals in 19 months, something like that. But more than a deal a month. Grew the portfolio bigger than it's ever been. But it was because the numbers were just there. 3.5, 375, 4.0 debt. And then seeing that the market hadn't caught up, and every single time I got an appraisal, it was, 10, 15% higher than what I was actually buying the building for. That didn't really matter that much. What really mattered was the cash flow. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I'm going to jump in and start answering questions. But I'm super excited to be here. We'll see how long my voice lasts. And Key, I did see you pop up with the orange and ginger. Wife's already going out to get the ginger. So thank you very much, Key. Appreciate you. Another Lumberjack Landlord alumnus. So lots of questions this morning. We'll jump in. We'll say our good mornings, and then we'll start talking real estate. So Dion, good morning, and Frank, good morning, and Mandy, good morning, and Hyder, good morning, and Brett, good morning. I understand that you're on your way to church this morning, and so I'll see you on the other side. Johnny Cashflow Ramirez making an appearance, the hardest working man in Texas buying real estate. The Yoder, good morning, everyone. Today is another great day for a great opportunity doing the work. Absolutely, that's very true. Guys, it does become discouraging when you feel like you're beating up your spreadsheet, right? I get it. That's by far the most difficult part of this game is, going over that spreadsheet. But imagine taking the time to, instead of the market dictating to you what's going to happen, you dictate to the market what's going to happen. What that means is doing something different than the other investors are in your space. I'm going to say something that's offensive. It's going to offend you. Man, this is awful when I do this, but I feel it here and I feel it here. And when these two things align, damage happens. You're not special. How you evaluate the market, it's not special. You don't think other people know how to figure out return on capital? Of course they do. Of course they do. So that is a core fundamental. But what's really fundamental is, how do you use that skill set in other ways? Every other investor on the market is looking at MLS. Every single one of them. It's not to say it's impossible to get a deal. Of course you can get a deal. I've bought deals through MLS. I always would share with you guys, here's the last 5 deals, and here's how I found them. So let's just do that new project again. My last deal was through a wholesaler. My deal before that was through my network. Deal before that was a combination of, it was just previewed on MLS, but I knew the agent, but my agent and the agent listing the property. So we got in there before anybody else, and we got a deal agreed and signed to, actually before, I think, right when the showing went live. Cause I was just like, hey, this expires at noon today. Cause I knew she wouldn't be able to get anybody in before then. So boom, done. Deal before that was a straight MLS. And the deal before that was an off market deal. So 4 out of my 5 deals were not MLS. Do you see why I've done 5 deals and you might not have done one, or maybe you've done one? It's because your network is your net worth. You need to be spending that time creating relationships with people that have assets. It can be other landlords, like multifamily strategy, how they teach you in their course how to work with other landlords and other investors and actually get a seller finance deal. If you're short on cash, it's a great way to do it. So as you go through the process, recognize that sure, you can buy deals on an MLS. Are you kind of tired of waiting for your deal? Then go create one. Go create a deal. If you can't find what you're looking for in MLS, find other people that own those assets that have one of those things in their portfolio where they say, you know, it's just time to move on from that asset. It just never really worked for us. That's a perfect opportunity. I buy those assets all the time. That off market deal I did was just from another landlord. She's like, yeah, just tired of that property, kicks my butt every single time. Tenants hate me. You know what? They may hate me too. Possible. And so sometimes you're buying those assets and they have, 4 months left on the lease. And you can just tell them, this is the conversation I have with them. I say, listen, I know that you and the previous landlord didn't necessarily have the best relationship. Please give me a list of 2 or 3 things that he just wouldn't fix for you and kind of take care of. And that's going to give me a gauge. I've had somebody say, the light in the bathroom has been broken for 2 months. Really? Is it just a light bulb? No, it's a special fixture thing. Oh, okay. And then I get somebody over there and we look at that, we do those 2 or 3 things that they want done. Completely changes the relationship. And I've taken over bad tenants from, landlords that it wasn't really working, and made them happy. And then said, hey, so one of the things I want to give you as much notice as I can, when your lease comes due, here's currently what stuff is renting for in your market. I know that you're doing the next couple months. Think about what you think is a fair number. The Dion binder strategy, essentially. I would usually do it through text, just because a lot of people are very anti-confrontational. If you look at the number of people that respond well to confrontation, and even if it's not aggressive confrontation, even if it's just a disagreement with their idea or delivering of bad news that their rent is going to go up because it has to, because you have a mortgage now and it's at 7% and the other guy's mortgage was at 3.5 or 4, the economics force you to increase the rent. But I do it through text because most of my tenants are sub 40 and sub 50, and texting is a means of communication for them. And that's not to take a slam on the older guys. I'm 46. I live on my phone and I do a lot of texting. There's many people that don't because they don't require their phone at work, etc. So that opportunity is there. And then we can try and right the ship and see if they're a tenant. And if I see that the tenant's requested, well, the kitchen's not been updated since I moved in, and this, that, and the other. Yeah, right. Well, when I redo that kitchen, you're not going to have a kitchen for 2 weeks. But on top of that, you're not going to want to pay the $500 more a month rent to live in that super nice place that's now brand new. But the market's not going to feel like they're doing me a favor in renting out that unit. They're going to be ecstatic. What's really funny is the couple units that we had that what we call kind of everyday units, like market units, those have had trouble renting in January like they always do. It's not different than it ever is. And then the amount of responses that we're getting is still pretty high, but the tenants are pure hot garbage. 480 credit, 500 credit, 520 credit. Story that takes up 3 pages of texts. Just no. Liars that we go to verify, and it's like, you don't have a 620 credit score. Your credit score is 490. It's like, I wouldn't take your cash if you tried to pay me. You're that bad at paying your bills. So we're seeing a lot of that. However, in the done units and the ones that we've gutted, rehabbed, beautiful units, beautiful, cabinets, kitchen setups. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry. In those beautiful units that we've done, we actually had lower volume of applicants, but the applicants were all excellent. you know, except for the idiots who are like, hey, will you drop the rent $300 a month? Why? Because we're so close. No, thank you. No, thanks. Because I'll get somebody at market and I'll get somebody that's qualified at market. So here's a perfect example. We had a beautifully done 1-bedroom, $1,700 a month. That is the highest we've rented out 1-bedrooms, except for the ones that are the swanky, you know, on the main drag, amazing views of downtown in the city. So this is setting a record for what this asset is. What's really interesting is that asset rented in the first weekend it was open. We had 3 or 4 pretty qualified tenants. Yes, that's down from the 10 or 15 that we usually have, but it's January. We have a foot of snow on the ground. And yesterday it was 10 degrees. Who wants to move in that? They're going to do whatever they can to stay where they are, right? That's what makes sense. So all in all, what I would tell you is the market is strong. I'm still seeing demand. What's crazy about it is I still see a lot of Section 8 tenants just trying to get out of, they're trying to upgrade. They're trying to get out of the place that they're in and get into something else. Because what's really funny is I see very often, they're just like, oh, the landlord's the worst. Oh, the landlord's the worst. And then I see what they're like with me. I went down that path. And a lot of times they're just professional malcontents. They're just whiners, you know? And, you know, for all of you idiots that are going to be in my chat saying, you know, your landlords suck and you're just leeches and all this other stuff. Who's the host then? Who's the host? You know, I have, if I had 100 of my perfectly done units available for market, they'd be rented. But those assets are really hard and expensive to create. So anyway, let's jump back into some questions. Let's see. I know, Hyder, Johnny, been a long time. Exactly. Morning, Matt. Get well soon. Orange and ginger boiling water. Yes, sir. Booger Fart Boy, he's back. Richard Camino, good morning, Matt. Jay Smith returns. I like that. Wealth Building Journey, good morning, Chester. Jay Smith returns. I feel Jumbo Jack Landlord's course is overpriced and many sit it's not worth it. It will be lowering the price. Interesting. Love to hear where you heard that. Jay, one of those professional malcontents, it appears. Good morning, Lumberjack Landlord Tribe. Good morning, Gina. Good to see you. Robert Farinelli. Good morning, sir. Ninja Vanish. Good morning. Jay Smith, is the dollar getting stronger or weaker? Oh, looks like Hyder's hitting you from an economic standpoint. In other words, people are dumb. LOL. Yeah. Thanks, Johnny Ramirez. Morning, all. Good morning, Josh Coster. Good to have you here. Frank Contreras. Do it, Hyder. I know, right? The Wealth Building Journey at Jay Smith returns. First and final warning, be respectful. We do not disparage anyone here. Maintain respectful tone or you'll be hidden. See that? CJ, this is what happens when you reach a community that's getting wealthy together. You should probably go. Oh, are you late for your shift? You might be late for your shift. Go work for the man. Let me know how it goes. Jay Smith, my bank account is weaker, Hyder. That sounds right. I would understand. I understand that for sure. Robert Farinelli. Oh, on there. I want to give them a chance. May not have been auto miscorrect. Could be. Sure. Robert Farinelli, what do you use for ceiling fans in college rentals? I'm going for a layout of ceiling fan in middle with 4 recessed lights. That's exactly what I do. The ones that I like the most, Hyder, are the ones where the light fixture, I think, I want to say they're Hampton Bay. The ones that I like the most are where the light fixture is actually part of the unit, not where it's lights hanging down, not where it's anything like that. I want something that's also flush mounted to the ceiling because, you know, we've had some tenants that are, you know, 6'4", 6'6". We had one kid who was like 6'8". And it was really funny when the agent was showing him a place. I said, what do you think? And I didn't know he was 6'8" at the time. And she goes, well, he stepped in the shower and basically the nozzle came down to the bottom of his neck. And I said, oh, yeah, for sure. I said, well, how tall is he? She's like, he's like 6'8". I go, yeah, that's not the right place for him. Because it was a nice apartment, but it was, you know, the ceilings were shorter than the 7'6" normal. They were like 7-foot ceilings. So he was only 4 inches from the ceiling. So doorways were hard to walk through. Everything was challenging in that unit. Ironically enough, or funny enough, we did actually find him a unit because we have other stuff that was built in older homes that actually have 8-foot ceilings. So for him, he was like, yeah, I had to find something. We told him, we said, you're looking for something older because you want those old 8-foot ceilings. And that means everything is naturally placed higher. So that's one of those interesting things. So yeah, I would look at the Hampton Bays, but the model of what you're looking for is where the light's kind of more included in the body, not something hanging down. And you want something that's flush mounting to the ceiling, nothing that has like a pole coming out of it. You want to definitely be flush mounting to the ceiling. Wealth building journey. Thank you very much. Let's get the likes up. Always fire and ice. Good morning, Laura Samaniego. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. The wealth building journey. Great question. I agree. It was a great question. Flavio Macias. Good morning from Washington. Good to have you here, sir. Robert Fairley. And do you have a preference between 4-inch and 6-inch lights? I found an Alibaba vendor for fire rated recessed lights at $8 a light, plus whatever shipping, but they are only 4-inch. The 4-inch, I like them. They're nice. But we usually standard just put in the 6-inch. It creates it when you can put 4 of those in a room, it actually does create, it actually does create this amazing environment. It really does. It is most like sunlight. So it's actually really good. Jay Smith returns. This is why I'm here, Hyder. But I keep getting blocked by pansies. Well, that's not very nice, Jay. Jay might need to go out in the timeout bin. Rude. Hyder, bank accounts are a reflection of one's value provided. I think you need to provide more value, Jay. It's probably not far off from the truth. Robert Finley, I'm not as picky with 4-inch lights with new drywall because unlike retrofits with a 4-inch box, overcutting, getting the old box out. Sure. So in those old 6 ounces or 6 inches, not 6 ounces, the 6-inch ones, what's really important in the 6-inch is that they actually make a retrofit can. So where you screw in the light bulb, and normally it would just be those big old can lights and you're sticking in this big old ugly light. They actually make retrofit trim pieces where it's a circle like this. It will cover the 6-inch hole, but you unscrew the old light bulb and you screw in the new one, but it's still a pancake light that then as a retrofit fits right in the can. They're a great solution. They're absolutely fantastic. Hyder, Jay, what year were you born? You seem young. Sounds right. So I recently changed banks and discovered money market savings that can bring me a lot more return than renting a house. Why doesn't everybody do that instead of dealing with all the headache? So that's a great question. So Jay Smith has $50,000 in the bank and get you at least $800 back every month. And if you put it in a certificate, it can probably get you more. So that's very true, but that will also fluctuate over time. That's not fixed forever. That's fixed for a time. And so the challenge is you might see high rates. Sure, absolutely. The problem that you have with that type of a rate is that, or that type of a return. And if you're 8%, that's 9,600 that you're making on $50,000. I know that you're lying. I know that you're lying because there's nothing in the world that pays that guaranteed rate with no risk. You're talking about $800 every month, which is $9,600 a year, which is just about 18% returns. So, Jay, you might want to go to one of those Crash Pro channels because you're fibbing. And they do that really well on their channels, in my opinion. So you're not making $9,600 a year on 5,000. And I'll bet you 10 grand it's not a fixed asset. So I'll bet you 10 grand. If you want to take me up on my offer, you can prove to me that you're making $9,600 on $50,000 with zero risk. But I know that that's factually not true. Excuse me. Kip S. Good morning, family. Good morning, Kip. Good to have you here. Ironwood Workman, there you are, my friend. Good to have you back. Fire and Ice. Closing on a zombie fourplex that has been vacant since 2017. Oh, my goodness. All right, Fire and Ice. Here is my one piece of advice to you that you got to make sure that you do, because 2017, that means it's been vacant for 7 years, at least 6 probably. So what you have to do, if you haven't done it already, one of the things that we teach in Lumberjack Landlord course is that we want to make sure that you're scoping those sewer lines. That amount of time with not being really maintained or managed, those sewer lines, you want to know before you start doing any other major projects, do you need to replace lines? And you can get somebody to do it. There's like the national chains, like the Roto-Rooters and things like that. You can find somebody that has a self-leveling sewer camera, and you want them to drop that from basically every single drop in the house. I would say do it from the toilets is probably the most important thing. And then you want them to do it from where the clean out is all the way out to what's called the chimney. The chimney is or the stub out. The chimney is where all the other lines go into, that the sewer then basically takes that off to be, cleaned out. If it's a stub out, that's where the city has set up the sewer line to create a stub that then when that house was built, it stubs out to it and they connect right there. You want to make sure that you're running that line and having that looked at. That's going to be a massive cost. It can be $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 to do that. You want to know and make sure that your lines are perfect before you start doing any landscaping, interior work, any of that other stuff. That's a secret tip from the lumberjack landlord. Oh shit, I'm a landlord now. What? Robert Finelli. I'm glad I went under contract when rates were 8. I would have never gotten the deal. I would have with rates now, someone else would have taken it higher. I'll just refinance later. It's exactly right. I started a deal that I was working on. They started me at 7.7, and I'm going to close next week, and I'm at 7 flat. I went back to them. I said, guys, the rate is no longer anywhere near applying. I was like, it makes no sense at 7.7. I can get debt for less than that elsewhere. So they said, yeah, let me see what we can do. And they did. They were awesome. They were a great bank. 7.0 flat. That's where we're at. So I'm excited to have that. Wealth building journey, all-nighter hider. I'm shining up my boot. It may not matter too soon for this guy. Giving him one more chance than I probably should. Very funny. Good question, Jay. CDs are one-dimensional. Returns, REI is multidimensional. True that REI is multidimensional, but I would argue with your rate of return. There's no CD that's returning 18%. None. Nope. Not unless you're giving money to a company that's about to go out of business and you're paying that massive risk premium. Therefore, it's not risk-free. Anybody that's giving you debt at 18%, it's a lot higher. So Jay Smith, I think the reason that Hyder and all of us would ask that question is because the question seems pretty uninformed. And so I think that we would think that you were younger, because to ask that question or to get other adults that are financially savvy and sound to believe that you're getting 18% is just not reasonable. I just finished watching an American Greed marathon, and the rule is if it's kind of more than 10%, it's probably not real. Except now we have 8% rates. Let's see. Josh Burdick, good day, lumberjack. Good day. All-nighter hider. Yep. Good to see wealth building journey. Exactly. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. Joe, you're very welcome. I'm always happy to do that. Michael Diaz, good morning, all. Robert Finelli, yes, I'm ready to be offended. It's been a while. I know, right? It has been too long. The wealth building journey. Market question for you, lumberjack landlord. If you had to choose, would you choose a college town with an elite CFB college football team? Yep. An elite NCAA team, or both halfway decent CFB and NCAA teams? So I've never done the correlation, but here's what I would tell you. If it's an elite school with those elite teams, those guys are living on campus. They're living on campus, or they have what the other elite teams have done. You're not capturing any of those athletes, and nor do you really want to. They're kind of special in their eyes, and in their parents' eyes. And so I've had bad luck with the Division A or Division 1 schools, where you're talking like star athletes. I won't share it here, but I have friends with kids in, Division 1 schools, and the way that they're treated is they are completely treated like a different part of society. And so there's different rules for them. And so a lot of the regular rules don't apply. So for me, for us, it's division, it's New Hampshire. We don't take their hockey players. We don't get their football players. We've had some of their football players in the past. But we get a lot of their other sports. Yep. We've gotten some of their other sports. Michael Diaz, 48 watching, only 12 likes. Let's smash that like button. Thank you, Michael Diaz. I appreciate that. So wealth building journey, just to make sure I final on the question. Me personally, I think you're better. I think it's better on the, the student, looking at the student population and what percentage of them live on campus and off campus. That's the better determinant than elite or non-elite teams. The better determinant is how much housing do they have for their students on campus. That's the better number to watch. Jay, I control my emotions. You misspelling my name as an effort to get me going is juvenile. That is another reason that we think that Jay might be younger than 42. Let's see. Matt Bittner, Lumberjack Landlord. Do you have any experience with adding restrooms and bedrooms to single and multifamily homes? Does ARV increase significantly after the additions? Yes, it does. I have done them all. I have added bathrooms. I have added bedrooms. The key to it is in older homes. So in many of these old Victorians and many of these old duplexes, they had one bathroom. That bathroom is usually on the second floor. The thing that almost every one of these has is a good means of getting up to the second floor in stairs. And usually under the stairs is wasted space. You can almost always fit a toilet and a vanity in that room. It's absolutely fantastic. It costs about $5,000 because you're adding a fixture, and usually it's $1,500 to $2,000 to add a fixture. So from a plumbing perspective, rough plumbing to finished plumbing. So, you figure it's a couple of $1,000 between all the supply lines, the drain lines, the venting, and that to do for the vanity. It's another, like I said, $1,500 to $2,000 to add the line onto the main trunk, make sure that's properly vented. Make sure that you're doing, everything to code, that everything fits properly. And then you're looking at buying the toilet for, about $300, and you're looking at buying the vanity for $300 to $400. And then you're having to trim out the room and paint the room and put in a vanity light. And so when it's all said and done, you can pretty easily add a half bath. You can pretty easily add them for, like I said, about $4,000, $4,000 to $5,000. Hiding them under the stairs on the way to the second floor is the best place to put them. It really is. Because again, that becomes like a morning emergency thing. It's not like people are using that when everybody's sitting around in the family room, and somebody's going to go use that bathroom. That's not usually it. Usually they're going to use that bathroom when it's in the morning time, everybody's getting ready and having a second toilet, having a second sink, having that sort of stuff, especially with a lot of these older duplexes and triplexes and quads. A lot of times they'll have a bedroom on the first floor, or they had a den on the first floor and I convert that to a bedroom. So I've bought a number of multifamily. This is actually a great question. I bought a number of multifamily assets where they were 3 beds and 1 bath, and I made them 4 beds and 1.5 baths. And you might get confused if you see that in MLS. Sometimes they mark it as a 1.1. 1.1 is the same thing as what 1.5 used to stand for. Which is interesting to me. I learned that because I was like, what is a 10%? What is 10% of a bathroom? I was like, does it have like a supply line and nothing else? And they were like, nope, that's the new moniker for half bath. So whatever. But that's so they do. Bedrooms is what drives your rents. If you look at Section 8, Section 8 has no square footage requirement. They don't say the place has to be 1,200 square feet to get a 3-bedroom voucher. No, they say a 3-bedroom voucher. So long as it meets their criteria of, cubic footage, like you're not like where there's a roof line going through it and part of the wall is blocked and there's no real space in there. But so long as, heat, closet, window as a second means of egress or some sort of second means of egress, even if it's like another door and not a window, that's what drives your money. What drives your money 1,000% is bedrooms. Wealth building journey, Ryan. I'm done with him. He's done. Nice. Final viewing before cremation. So low tolerance today. Sorry to hear that, Chester. Chester lost somebody near and dear to him. And but guys, I appreciate you. Again, we want to spend the time talking about real estate, not justifying our existence. If he's got 50 grand sitting in a bank account, awesome. Go do something with it. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have to work for the man. Sorry you're under the weather. Sound great. Wayne Miller, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I'm super proud of myself, honestly, because it's basically the end of January, and this is the first time I've gotten sick this year. And all of my kids have had it 2 and 3 times, my little petri dishes. because they just go to school and touch everything and come home sick. Does anyone have any of your low E replacement windows are warping? My vinyl siding situation. Interesting. Yep. 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 Yeah. So I've seen that before. It can be a couple of things. One is it can be a less expensive window. Low E argon gas. Usually that's not a very cheap window because of the fixture. I would talk to the window company, have them come out and take a look. The one you bought it from. The other thing is that I've literally had siding on the side of a building melt because of the angle of the sun off the other windows on a building next door. Weirdest thing I ever saw. Guy looks at it and he goes, "You know what's happening there?" I was like, "That's why you're here. I don't know what's happening there." And he goes, "That guy's window." He goes, "When the sun shines off that window, it's heating up your siding. It's twisting it." I was like, "It is not." He goes, "No, it absolutely is." He's like, so then he literally pops a piece off. He goes, "See how it's like wavy?" He goes, "That's melted." I was like, that is the craziest thing. So yeah, I've actually seen it happen. Sorry. Oh yeah. Sorry. Just read that. Craig Cameron. Fire and ice. Yes. I had a neighbor's window reflecting sunlight, melting vinyl siding. Yep. Had to have their window replaced. There you go. It has happened. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's the absolute weirdest thing ever. All-nighter hider has poor approach and wonders why they get blocked. A patient troll is interesting creature. I know, right? It's kind of weird. It's like they're trying to catch us. Ha ha! I knew it. Dude, you're not getting 18% return on 50 grand with no risk. Stop. If that were the case, there wouldn't be hard money lenders lending money at 11 and 12% right now on these types of assets. That's just silliness. 42. Maybe he shared his IQ and not his age. It's possible. If he has a 42 IQ, then he's probably sharing his IQ, not his age. Fire and ice. Craig, we were told by the manufacturer to put screens on to deflect the light waves. Very interesting. I've never heard that before. That's very interesting. I've never heard the put screens on before. Huh. Interesting. Lumberjack Landlord, did you check out the 3 multifamilies in Columbus? They all were very nice. Then all of a sudden, everything just stopped, went dead, like someone died. Interesting. I didn't check them out, Ironwood. I didn't check them out. Literally, I think after I think I read your text, I was watching whatever that live stream was. I think it was Simon's live stream. Might have been somebody else, but whatever it was, and then number 4 started crying, which instantly gets dad's attention. Baby number 4, who is now 3 months old. Can you believe it? 3 months old already. Amazing. Cashflow John Ramirez. My best deals come from networking and marketing funnels. MLS is but it's there, so I might as well take a look at it. Completely agree. That's exactly right. You don't want MLS to be your primary deal driver. You just don't. You will find better deals outside of MLS every single time. That's why even when everyone was talking about 8%, 9% deals, I was talking about 20, 22, 25% deals. It's because I was getting them through means that it couldn't go to market. So there's a lot of rules around getting FHA financing. There's a lot of rules around getting VA financing. And so some agents, because they suck, didn't know the difference of the two, number one. But number two is they didn't know that financing was much more difficult. So they were showing these properties and would get down the path, and then somebody was a VA or somebody was FHA, and then it would fail and get a C5, which is a condition 5, which FHA and VA, or C4, they won't rent or they won't let you buy those properties because it's mean that there's too much deferred or delayed maintenance that hasn't taken place that's given the building essentially is in now worse condition than it should be than market. And so then that deal would blow up and then they would be like, oh my word, what are we going to do? But at the end of the day, FHA and VA are not going to let you buy something that you have to then put a bunch more money in. That's at least one thing smart about the program is that they say, well, sure, we'll partner up with you and we'll let you do 3.5% down and not have a whole lot of equity in the game. Or if you're a VA and you deserve it, all VAs deserve to get that 0% loan. When you get that, they don't want you to have to move in and do a bunch of work. So they don't allow for those when you have a condition 4 property, which basically means that you might have, a foundation issue, or you might have, this, that, or the other issue, deferred maintenance, like heating systems or roofs or things like that. And so what's really kind of interesting about all of that stuff is that creates a gray market, that creates a secondary market for guys like Johnny, for a lot of the investors here, for somebody like me, where I'll buy that from a wholesaler because I know that that person can't put it on the market. They don't have the $20,000 or $30,000 to do all the work that needs to get done so they can go to market. And so their best bet is, hey, you know what? I'm just going to put the word out there, because then a wholesaler marks it up whatever they want. Now that wholesaler markup might be 2%, it might be 1%. I've seen deals like that where the wholesaler only took like 1 or 2 points on the deal. Well, if they went to a broker, the broker is going to need 6 or 5 at least, and split it 3-2 or 2.5 or whatever. So that's where, creating your own deal and getting value add deals where work needs to be done, it's just, they're worth their weight in gold. Just to get the taste of just water out of my mouth. Key, MLS, plus raise rent plus tenants. Dinosaurs doesn't exist. Yeah. And that's exactly right too. Like a lot of times when you find stuff on the MLS, there's not going to be this great value add opportunity where if you price in the amount of money that you have to make it value add, now you're paying full retail. Those deals don't work. You need to have more meat on the bones. You have to have more equity that you're creating by you being the one doing the project. Here's an example. Property I bought for $515,000, 5-unit building. I went to the bank and I said, I believe based on rents, I believe that this building is worth $900,000. And they said, okay, so they do what's called a construction loan, and you have to do something called an as is and an as complete. The appraiser comes through the building and he's like, yeah, this place is a total dump. It might be worth 5.25. And I was like, yep, I think I'm buying it right. I think I'm buying it for what the market should let me buy it for. He says, yeah, worth about 5.25. I said, cool. And he says, as complete price, he thinks is about 800. I said, yeah, I can live with 800. That's fine. So what the bank does in a construction loan is instead of taking 25% of the 515, I pay 25% down of the 800. The difference is I pay 25% down of the 800, which is, call it $200,000, because that's about what it is, plus fees. So I put $200,000 down instead of $125,000 down. No, $150,000 down. So I'm down for a little over 200 instead of a little over 150. Excuse me. The difference is I might be in it for 150 and change, or 200 and change instead of 150 and change. But now the bank says, okay, 25% LTV at 800. They're letting me tap into the future value and equity at 800. I'm putting $200,000 down. Now my mortgage is 600, right? But they say, but they say, hey, if you're going to put down the $200,000, then you're going to have a note of, $600,000, or note of 600. Correct. So I've got a note of $600,000, but the key is how much money can I then get out of them where they say, hey, this asset's going to be worth 800. And then you're buying it for 550. So here's what's cool. They then say, okay, it's worth 800, but that's the as complete price. We are going to take your $200,000 deposit, and that's going to come off, or your $200,000 deposit that you're getting, that's going to come off of the 515. Follow me? That comes off the 515, my purchase price. Because that 200 comes in off the 515, the purchase price, now I own the asset for $315,000. The bank says we'll give you up to 75% of what the asset's worth at 800 because I'm buying it like I'm buying it done at 800. So that 75%, right, is now they basically give me credit for all of that. So now I have the difference between the 315 all the way up to the 600. So I can get a $285,000 budget. How awesome is that? So that $285,000 budget, I don't need all the 285. Don't need it all. So I only took, I think I took like 2.25. It took 2.25. Now, sometimes I take it all, and then if I have leftover money, then I just use that to buy it down, or I enhance that many more things about the building. Usually I don't do that, though, as far as enhancing more things about the building. But this is why construction to perm deals are far better than BRRRR deals. I'll break those guys every day, all day long, twice on Sundays. Construction to perm deals are the way to do it. So when I finish this project, I'm going to have 2.25. So it's 315 plus 2.25. Let's just say I go over budget, right? Let's just say I go over budget. Let's say it's 250 plus the 315. So I'm in there for 565. It's worth 8 allegedly. Doesn't matter. Now all of my debt is on the 565. The issue is those units are probably going to rent for $2,000 a month per unit. It's $10,000 a month. Now that's generating. What's my mortgage on the 515? Well, here's the best part. I locked it in when rates were only 5.25. So now I have rate at 5.25. So anybody else trying to get that debt today is going to be trying to buy at 7.5%. That 7.5% that they're buying at, yep, you guessed it, that gives them that much less profitability in the deal. But now because my rate is 5.25 and it's 7-year debt, I know what my rate is. It's fixed for 7 years, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to be driving about $10,000 a month in rent off of those units, which is crazy, but I'll drive 10 grand a month off of those units, and my expenses all in, insurance, taxes, everything might be 5,500, maybe 6 grand tops. That building. Now, here's the thing. Big project. Yep. Scary. Yep. Construction to perm type of debt. You might not know anything about that. That's what we cover in the Lumberjack Landlord boot camps, is those types of deals and how you can attack those deals. I help somebody where I'm walking through the process with them on a deal that they're going through because we have one-on-one time available. But that's the type of amazing stuff that you can do. That's the type of amazing stuff that you can do. It will absolutely blow your mind. And so that deal, imagine doing a deal like that, because then, you do 2 or 3 of those, you end up with $2 to $3 million worth of real estate. You end up with real estate that might make $3,000 to $4,000 a month. But now the building's completely done. I don't have to redo plumbing. I don't have to redo heating. I don't have to redo the roof or windows or siding or anything. The building's been completely done. In all likelihood, I will have fewer than 4 or 5 calls a year on that building for the next decade. And I've proven that model in the ones that we've done where we've gutted down to studs, completely redone them, and everything is brand new. We do that because we get a whole lot more money for that completed done unit. It's still well under market as far as like the brand new big multifamily stuff. But most importantly, it generates a significant amount of profit. And then if I want to do another one, great. But that type of an asset is very attainable for almost anybody. It's not some big 10, 15, 20 unit building, which is what makes it really appealing. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. All-nighter hider question for you. Okay, we'll leave that to hider. Craig Cameron, Fire Nice. That would work, I bet. Yep, it was a picture window I was dealing with, so there was not a screen option. Oh, man, yeah, that's brutal. Ironwood, they are building one of the most advanced chip manufacturing plants in the world right now in Columbus. That's true. Not like it is a low-tech city with nothing going on. Very true. And that's a great point that Ironwood brings up. You want to be in areas where there are going to be good jobs. You do. You want to be in that area. And with all the money that they're putting in that stuff, it's with the CHIPS Act being like $51 billion, with all those locations that they're going to build up over the next few years. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable in areas that got awarded those. I mean, literally, it's like giving birth to a brand new city. Wealth building journey. I didn't realize credit scores in the 400s and even 300s were even possible under normal circumstances. I figured you'd have to intentionally try and get a score that bad. Yeah. So here's what you literally intentionally have to do: not pay, run up a bill, and then literally don't pay any of it. And then do that with every single piece of credit that you have: your car, your credit cards, your store credit cards. It's awful. Like, one guy blamed it on his divorce, and I was like, when did you get divorced? And he said 5 years ago. Dude, 5 years ago, and you haven't, it's not cleaned up yet? No. you're still the problem. Yep. In fact, now I think I know why she left you. I need a way to find owners that are hiding behind LLC setup. So Ironwood, you can look at skip tracing. Look at a company called Batch Leads. They're actually pretty good. You can also hire a PI. There's a lot of PIs that do that type of LLC identification stuff and find out who these people are. So you can find it that way too. But I would use a PI. You can just look up local PIs. They have access to databases and things like that with their licenses that we don't have access to. So you can do that. Fire and Ice. One of my first applicants when getting back into rental real estate had a credit score of 360. Have I seen one in the threes? Yeah, I think I saw 396. I think was the worst score I've ever seen. 396. Holy crap. And I looked and everything was horrible. Hey, T, good morning. Good to see you. Open corporates. Yep, may help you out. Yep. Yeah, I would look. I mean, there's get a relationship with a PI. I have one. And so anytime somebody, jumps town or whatever, like he usually finds them faster than skip tracing systems do. And it's like $100. It's not expensive at all. Excuse me. Robert Farinelli, thinking about using a tool that you pass the paper through and wets it before you put it on the wall. Yep. Seen those. Sure. Let's see. Yeah. All knife and mud pan. Yep. So what you do is you can just put a light coat of mud right there on the joint as it is. Then you stick the paper to it and then you mud over it and boom, you're good. Fire Nice. PS or excuse yes. Is my biz screen name. I just joined Lumberjack last week under my real name. I'm liking the course and it's priced correctly. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Fire Nice. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, I didn't want to spend, I didn't want to like hire camera crews and do all this other goofy stuff to make it more expensive. I was like, what do the people need? They need all the information. So I appreciate the support there. And I agree with you. I think it's very accurately priced. The only thing that I never get, it's too expensive after they've taken it. I only get that in the beginning. But it's because they don't know all the information that's in there. So that's fair. All-nighter hider. I'm in California, Ironwood. Yeah, SoCal, just above the border. Yes. Hider, open corporates. Yep. Luke Devine, sir, lumber. Any website suggestions to practice running the numbers on multifamily deals? So the only way that I do it, Luke, and again, this is just how I do it. You can find your own. How I do it is everything that I do is through my bank's spreadsheet. So if you think about it, your bank is going to be the one to finance the deal. They have every single bank that gets a loan approved. It goes through underwriting and then it goes to some sort of a deal committee. What you have to ask them for the spreadsheet that they use to approve a deal. That means that you're in alignment with your bank when you say, okay, and what are the numbers that I'm looking for here? It actually says it right there. In fact, I think I'm going to cover that spreadsheet in my course. I think I'm going to show that spreadsheet in my course. I can't show it on the internet because it's proprietary, but I can show it in the course. But basically it takes into account, vacancy and maintenance. And then it talks about your global rate and what that needs to be. So the best place to get that is not some third-party mortgage calculator. or some third-party site. The best place to get something like that is right from the bank that you're going to borrow from. Or even if you're not borrowing from that bank, ask the bank that you're trying to create relationship with, say, hey, I don't want to waste your time bringing you a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, doesn't make a difference. Please just show it to me. And if you send me that, I'll make sure that I'm kind of pre-underwriting the deal for you, if that makes sense. And then they'll say something to the effect of, yeah, sure, I'll send that to you. And then you need to be asking them, is there any wiggle room? If there was an area of wiggle room, where's that wiggle room going to be? That way you might not find anything that meets the needs of the spreadsheet, but you're then on the path. And then they view that as something where it's like, hey, this guy wants to do business with me. Of course I do. If I can borrow the money from you, of course I want to do the business with you. Hopefully that helps you. Iowa Workman. In my state, the Secretary of State has online business lookup tool. Cool. You can type oh yeah, that's true too. See if your state has a similar lookup. Yeah, Craig, that's actually a great point. Craig's a big investor in Minnesota. And that's exactly right. Everybody has to file their LLC with the state. And so when you file your LLC with the state, that's what we have to look at. So that's exactly right. REI Stoners, morning all. Quick break to say hi to everyone and let you know we got a tenant. Good for you. Good for you. That's great news. Oh shit, I'm a landlord. Now what? Well done. Well done. You are a landlord now. Congratulations. That's awesome. SK, hey, good morning, SK. Seller of my duplex is offering to sell his next door triplex with seller financing. He's a realtor himself and wants to work with me directly. Any risks not taking my realtor with me? Yeah, no risks. No risks there. This is one of the things I encourage in the course is you always want to have a lawyer or an attorney that you have under that you have, basically under retainer. You always want to have that. Because any document that he's going to give you, you're going to need to run by your attorney. The attorney's not going to help you with the math. Thankfully, I tease my attorney friends all the time. And I'm just like, I bring to you my legal problems. I don't bring to you my math problems. But yeah, there's no risk there. I think at the end of the day, what it's worth is going to be up to you based on what kind of income you get from it. What kind of return is that going to give you? You get to become the underwriter in that deal and you get to be the one to negotiate the terms. So there's no risk in my eyes, because you should know more than your realtor. I know more than mine as far as values of rents. He came to me asking me what he should rent 2 units for that he's trying to rent out for somebody. And I said, what are you trying to rent them for? He tells me that. I was like, those are wrong. He's like, well, that's what they want. And I go, well, wish in one hand and you know what in the other, and let me know which one fills up first. So yeah. James Walsh. Hey, James. Matt, doing my first reno on a 6-unit. GC and his workers show up each day for a few hours and sometimes not every day. Any advice on how to deal with this? Nervous that he has all the leverage. So he does have the leverage. Is there anything in the contract that you sign with the GC that has to be done, that he has to be done by a certain time? One of the things that I always do with these guys is I have that conversation with them. I say, hey, listen, at the end of the day, every day I have carry. So I just had this conversation yesterday with one of the guys that I work with. Literally, no joke. Just had this exact conversation. And I said, hey, so you thought you were going to be able to get the project done for $8,000. You're going to be like $9,000 or $10,000. He's like, yeah. He's like, just some things we couldn't foresee. Yep, totally agree with you. But here's the problem. You told me you're going to be done in 2 weeks. And now it's 4 weeks. So I had the conversation. I just said, okay, so if we can't get any sort of relief on the project, like I need, my building costs $150 a day. The extra 2 weeks cost me real money. It cost me over $2,000, cost me $2,100. And on top of that, you want an extra couple of grand. You can see why I'm not going to stiff you, but you did tell me it was going to take this amount of time. And it did take this amount of time. And on top of that, you want more money. So we are going to work something out. I've done that with another contractor. I did it with them about 6 months ago. They said they were going to get it done in X amount of time. They told me a month and it was 7 weeks and it still wasn't done. And so we went back and forth and I said, you're going to have to pay part of the carry cost. It's like, well, you had other guys working there too. I said, other guys working around you, and they gave me chargebacks. So I got chargebacks from the other guys and I basically assessed him those chargebacks. And he's like, well, that's not fair. And I go, of course that's fair. Now, what I did is we worked out a number and I had him sign a lien release so he couldn't put a lien on my property. Because I told him, I said, your bill was 20. This should have been 27. You tried to hit me for 32. And I said, and I got $5,000 in chargebacks. I said, and those chargebacks are 100% on you. I said, you decided you wanted to be a GC and you weren't checking up on your guys' work and the work wasn't of quality. And so at the end of the day, we did a deal and I paid him like $21,800. And he was like, I just think that that's wrong. I said, I think it's wrong too. I said, it cost me more than the 21 grand. I said, you took a $4,000 or $5,000 hit. I took a $10,000 hit. So in managing those guys, it's important to have a contract to completion date. When you're newer to contractors, I would have a conversation with this GC and just say, this isn't going according to plan. Everybody that I'm hearing from is saying we're not putting in full days here. And I need this project done full days. But this is what contractors will do. They'll stack up too much work because they want to make sure that they have some work and not no work, and there are delays in construction. So understand it from their side of the business, but you have to understand it from yours, and you're paid to run your business, not theirs. So that's what the encouragement I would give you is I would have that conversation. And he does probably have all the leverage. That's why contracts make good contractors. Yeah. Laura, San Diego at REI. Love it. I'm a workman. Thanks for the info, but the big guy hide the owner behind LLC, aka subsidiary corporations. Yeah, I would hire a PI. PI can probably find who that is. Wayne Miller, yeah, $50,000 might get you $200 a month, but probably less. Yeah, that guy was a tool bag. He wasn't getting that kind of money on any level. Nope, not in a million years. That's why I offered him 10 grand. Everybody stops talking when you say, okay, fine, show it to me for 10 grand. And if you can prove your point beyond a reasonable doubt, I'll pay. I'm happy to pay. If there's something out there that's going to give an 18% return with zero risk, I'll pay the 10 grand and I'll park $500,000 in it and I'll make my money back very quickly. Very quickly. So yeah, show me where you're getting an 18+% return for zero risk. Liar, liar, pencil fire. James sounds like progress payments need to be negotiated for incentive to work. Yep. So that's the other thing too, is that it's standard in all my deals, even if there's not a penalty for even if there's not a penalty for when they're to finish, I never, ever, ever pay outside of a payment schedule. So it's when this piece is done, then it gets inspected by the city or me, and then you get paid. And so for them, what they do is they start going to the jobs and they do what's called CTR. We have a CTR model as well. So we have a model that we call CTR. Everybody always asks, what's CTR? Closest to revenue. A lot of contractors will work what's closest to revenue. They'll work, get to the point where they get their revenue, and then they're on to their next project, even if that other project isn't finished. It was finished to the point where they got a piece of their revenue. Then they go back to the other guy. They're there for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Then they get revenue there. Then they go back to the other guy, blah, blah, blah. Right? See, that's how it goes. And that's how they manage multiple accounts at the same time. We do the same thing with our tenants. When we have somebody leave a unit, we look at where that fits into all the other units that we have. And we start making a list. Here's all the things that we need to do for that unit. And we start getting contractors into those units. Now, that being said, I have what I call a continuity team. The continuity team is basically going in between the different contractors, making sure that all the stuff is there for the next trade that's needed and that the last trade has been properly cleaned up after. And again, we don't back charge for that proper cleanup because if it's usually pretty light, if it's something that's ridiculous, we call them and go, guys, you got to come clean this up. However, that's the continuity that I have between one contractor to the next. The best idea that you could possibly have is only paying based on progress having been made. But in the CTR model, in that, time to revenue, in that time to revenue model, the most important thing you can possibly do is make sure that you're working on things that are the CTR closest to revenue. So closest to revenue model means that if I get somebody that just moved out of one unit and I have somebody that's getting ready to move out of another unit, but this one is a really close turn. We looked at it. There's only a few things here and there that need to be done. Well, we know that we'll work on this one, but as soon as this person's out, we'll make those couple tweaks, and that way somebody's ready to move into that unit right away. That's your best model, is closest to revenue. Which of my assets is the closest to revenue? I'm going to put all of my money, effort, energy and behind that and getting that out and ready and available and rented, because then it starts creating cash flow for me again, which helps offset the fact that I have another asset that's no longer paying me revenue. All-nighter hider. Wayne, I thought the same thing. Haha. Yes, Matt, junk bonds at best. Yeah. Like no one's getting 18% returns. Like, give me a break. Let's just stop. That's silly. If that were the case, all these hard money lenders out there would be putting all of their money into that asset. And instead of getting 11% and having the risk that a deal might go sideways, and then they have an asset and then they have to get rid of the asset, no one does that. If you can get 18% with zero rate or with zero risk, everyone's going for the 18, of course. If I find something that gives me an 18% no risk, I will just put all my money into that and I'll stop buying real estate, because I might make 20 or 22 or 25 on a deal. I still would prefer the real estate because yes, it goes up over time and that's fine. But yes, you have rents, but yes, there's the cost of managing those tenants. But yeah, the difference of he's not getting 7% or 8% or anything of the like. That's just silliness. SK tenant in the 1900 built property vacating this month. House may have galvanized plumbing mostly. Yep. Is it a good idea to replace all to copper before renting out? What to check if electrical needs update? So SK, yeah, great question. What I would do is I would have the line scoped. Galvy plumbing, yeah, you want to replace it. It's just a matter of time before it starts leaking. So Galvy plumbing largely you want to place. As far as the electrical needing updating, the biggest thing is it, Romex or is it cloth? Is it knob and tube? We just gutted that place and sure enough, knob and tube and people spliced into the knob and tube. Like that's a horrible, horrible idea. It's a fire hazard, quite frankly. So yeah, I would look at the electrical, but I would honestly just take a look at what the electrical is. If it's Romex, no, it doesn't. Then the electrical doesn't need replacing. If the panel is old, like it's a Federal Pacific panel, yeah, insurance is getting more expensive on places that have FPs. Craig Cameron, I'm a workman. The Secretary of State gives the individual person's name. I don't think all states do that, but it's worth a try. That's true. Dividend Dave. Hey, Dividend Dave. Thanks for waiting. I did wait. I just hit the record button. So the good news is it's all there for you to take a look at. Wealth building journey. Not looking at athletes as much as student pop. Excellent. Thank you for the super chat. Totally understand. Not looking for the athletes. Here's what I would tell you though. By far your best bet. Don't worry about the athletes. It's not about them. I get it. It really, truly isn't about student pop either. It's about the amount of housing that they have for student population. That's the biggest and most important number. G Waters. Good morning from New York. Good to have you. Dave is always the funniest one. Thanks, Key. I mean, I think I'm pretty funny too, just for the record. All-nighter hider. Pedestal pediatrics. Great way to screw someone up. Yeah, I know, right? Let's see. Hider, back and forth conversation. I'm a workman. This is how China buys up so much land in the US. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Yep. Very true. Don't get a good feeling talking to Section 8 prospects who want to rent. They have no skin in the game with rent covered and also deposit helped by different agency. They're ready to move in. What's the risks? You just hit the risks right on the head. You just hit the risks right on the head. Talk to their previous landlord. How long were they in their previous place? So in a beautiful brand new place, there's a reason why they don't end up with beautiful brand new places that are built to a higher standard. It's because the rent's more expensive. It's not always covered by Section 8. But in the case where they're even borrowing their deposit, they don't have two nickels to rub together. The issue is maybe they were in their last place for 15 years. It's quite possible. It happens. It absolutely does. And so I've got some of those now where they lived in their previous place for 5 years and 10 years and 15 years and 20 years. I have people that are like that. I also have some tenants that seemingly move every 2 or 3 years. And when I've talked to their old landlords, that's the one where it's really, really true. I just asked the caseworker, have they had any complaints? Were they evicted? Were they put on notice? Did they have any, and I think in my state, they'll answer that question. I don't know if they'll answer that question in your state. So I'm not really sure. There's no risk in who's providing the money from a deposit perspective. They write that to you. And when you get that check, unless they're making you sign something saying you're returning it back to them, it doesn't matter. In that case, the only thing you want to make sure is that deposit is that you can recover against that deposit. That way, if they do screw something up, excuse me, if they do screw something up, then you can actually take that money. All-nighter hider. Everyone has their morning constitution at the same time. Great call on under stairhead. Mm-hmm. The end of the stairs, under stairs toilet is huge. We get that a lot because a lot of the big old duplexes where we are don't have a second bathroom. They're one bathroom. So it's 4 people to one bathroom. Well, if we had nutritionists and the nutritionists all started their day at exactly the same time. So it was 4 girls in one bathroom, leaving it, trying to get to the same class at the same time. I'm like, why don't you guys commute? They're like, well, we have different schedules after. Fair enough. But that means that all 4 of their cars left within 10 minutes of each other. It's kind of funny. It's like a clown, reverse of a clown car. HLR, what are the thoughts on converting units to all electric baseboard heating? The thoughts are just expense. Their expense. If you're doing Section 8 and they have to pay for heat, they give a bigger credit for electric heat because it's usually more expensive. The other issue that you have is that when you have one of those week-long cold snaps, you could end up with a $500 electric bill. Now, the electric company won't shut that person off, but the con to electric is that it's more expensive to use, it's more expensive to operate, it's more expensive for the tenant. So what it ends up happening is you will start either one of two things. One, you'll have to charge less for rent to make up for the fact they're going to have a much higher electric bill, number one. Number two is the bill gets so big that they end up leaving and going somewhere else that doesn't have electric heat, and then you end up going through that whole fiasco. And I'd say there's probably a number three, which is kind of tied to number two, which is just the overall expense. The overall expense of electric heat, very inexpensive for me to put in electric heat because I can put in, 4 or 5 breakers. I can put in 4 or 5 pieces of heat plus the electrician. It might be $2,000, $2,500 to put in all that electric heat. If I have to put in a heat pump, blah, 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 I'm probably $7,000 or $8,000 fully installed. If I'm putting in like a mini split. And so that's really the issue. The biggest issue with the mini splits is it's the same problem that people are having with Teslas in their old cars or in their cars. It's not quite that bad because obviously it's battery powered versus electric, but look at the news on like Chicago and all those, people had to deal with, chargers being frozen and cars being completely dead. That extreme weather takes a massive toll. And so in this particular case, the electric heat can keep up, but in like mini splits and things like that, most of those were rated to like 10, 15 degrees. Well, we live with that temperature here in the Northeast. And so it had to be perfectly insulated, but it'd still be kind of chilly on the days it was that cold. The key to that is now they're looking at making mini splits that can perform even in sub-zero weather. And when they do that, then that will be a much more acceptable use of the product. So that's usually why not converting to electric heat, Angel, is because usually the cost for the tenant is going to be the barrier for you. And so it's tougher to keep long-term tenants with that. Robert Farinelli, if I open up a ceiling, find a joist that needs sistering, do you have to use an LVL or normal wood? LVL is very expensive. You can use normal wood. You can use normal wood. What I would tell you though is that very often when you open up that ceiling, you are going to, so you have to do a couple things. Usually when that board snapped like this, usually I'm getting a board underneath it and then pushing that up to get the board where now it's perfectly straight. If you're dealing with 7.25 inch, then that's why I use an LVL, is because I can get like an 8-foot LVL in there and I can bolt it onto the two sides or nail into the two sides. And now I know that thing's never going to sag again. If I have to use regular lumber, guess what? The newer pine is much worse than the older pine. So that stuff can absolutely snap under the same conditions. Because when you're sistering that one's already broken. So you're basically asking it to take the same weight, except that older piece of rough cut wood is much stronger than that newer piece of pine, that newer piece of like 2x4. The other thing you can do too is you can actually take a 1-inch piece of plywood and you can just rip it a bunch of times and then put a bolt through it. LVLs aren't that expensive. You buy the 7.25, you can probably get like an 8-footer or a 10-footer. And if you get that 8-footer or 10-footer, it's never going to snap again. And you can probably get that board for like $80. It's like $10 a foot is what I've seen. All Nighter Hunter. Yep. Wyoming LLCs don't report members or managers. Yes. That is one of the great states out there. Wyoming. Robert Farron. But I think the property's in Ohio. Let's see. James Walsh. Here we go. Tenant moving out of my 2-bed, 900 square foot house on February 29th. It could use a new kitchen and bathroom. I get $1,350. I think I could get 1,600 if updated. Are you doing that all day long? So $250 a month. So it would depend on what my return is. So if you can get $250 a month, and that's really good, you're building your rent box, right? And you're saying, hey, I look at the other updated properties around me, and quite frankly, they can do 1650. They can do that much money in a month. It's going to rent out faster. I'm telling you, newer stuff, not dated, rents out faster. That's been my experience for 20 plus years, and I get a premium for it. It's usually a different quality of tenant, but I'm going to get more money. So what I would do is I would take that $250. I would figure out exactly what your budget's going to be, so you know that it's a $5,000 budget. Here's an example. If let's say it's a $10,000 budget. Let's get nuts. Let's say it's a $10,000 budget doing the kitchen and the bathroom, which you're probably going to be all day long. You're going to be 10 grand. If you're doing it the lumberjack way, you're going to be 10 grand. But if I do that for 10 grand and I'm $250 a month, I'm $3,000 a year. Well, what's that mean? That means you got a 30% return on your capital. To me, what's my other option? Yeah, I want to build up that asset. I have a better asset. I'm making more money. It's going to pay for itself in 3 years. For me, if you have that ability to outlay that cash, absolutely. That is a no-brainer to me. If it's 10 grand and I'm making $250 a month and it's $3,000, that's $3,000 a year. That's a 30% return on your capital. Find other things. I mean, maybe you can call Jay. Jay probably has something where you can make 30% returns with no risk. But maybe Jay doesn't have something that gives you a 30% returns on no risk. So, and if Jay were so smart, he'd take that $50,000, he'd be lending it out to the street. But even on the street, you don't get 18%. Anyway, I digress. What I would be looking at is, I'd be looking at it and saying, if I'm going to get a 30% return on my capital, there's no better place for my money. Really, what's the better place for your money than your own asset, increasing its value, increasing its, and you're not increasing just the value of the asset. What I'm saying is you're increasing the value of the cash flow, right? You ever need to sell that asset? Somebody doesn't go in and go, yeah, but it's really kind of dated. Somebody walks in and goes, oh, wow, they actually did the cabinets. They actually did the bathroom. One of the things that we offer to our Lumberjack Landlord boot camp only right now, we will eventually expand it open to the whole entire course, but boot camp only, we want to make sure we get all the kinks out. Boot camp only is able to buy kitchens at just over cost. I make them available through my company distributorship. I buy tons of kitchens every single year. And I think in Q4 last year, so the last 3 months of last year, I want to say we did something like 17 kitchens. And I think this year we've already done 4 or 5. With probably another 8 or 10 coming. So we're doing probably, and that's basically once you're in the boot camp, it's $99 to get us to design it for you. And then my designer, it's a pass through to my designer. My designer gives you the full design. Then you take the design and all the renderings and you can go shop cabinets anywhere you want. And you have all of the sizes. We don't hide anything from you. We give it all to you for the $99. Here you go. Here's everything. Now go price it out. Then they go price it out and they come back to us and they go, holy crap, people make a lot of money on cabinets. We're like, yeah, we know. That's why we wholesale. So that's why we do it that way. All-nighter. Hider private trusts are not filed yet with any statutory entities. They're filed at home or office only. Yes. Booger Farpoy. Those windows act like magnifying glass. Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly. 18%. LOL. What happened to 10% with Voyager? Yeah, I know, right? Or even 18% was Celsius, right? I know I never talk about crypto, but I watch a lot about it. I just don't like it. I do like some of it. Don't get me wrong. LOL. IQ and age mix up. I know, right? I thought that was funny. Thank you, Wealth Building Journey, for publishing the course there. Guys, thank you so much, too. We've actually got, I think, almost full classes. You'll see it. We're going to start off in February. We're going to have 2 time options. The only thing that you'll see probably sometime this week, for those of you who did sign up for the Lumberjack Landlord Boot Camp, you are able to take the course right now. The boot camp is actually going to have a poll on it. I'm going to give 4 time options. The 2 that have the most will be the 2 times that we pick. And then those 2 times, you can pick either one of those times every single week. You can go back and forth. You're not tied into one class. You can bounce back and forth. Whatever's more convenient for you, we're going to make those 2 times the boot camp times. So that's what we're going to do. So that will be pretty helpful. All-nighter hider, underpriced, awesome course. Thanks, Hider. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is. It just is. I mean, if you guys think about it, like we have every single person from the first boot camp said, I learned at least one thing that's already saved me what I spent on the course. Perfect. That's what I was going for. Now, with those lessons, you will multiply that over time. But if I can give you something right now today that saves what you spent on it in real money, not in feelings, but in real money, then I've done my job. I've given you something that's going to help you transform your business. I've given you instant payback over the course of the next, 60, 90 days. And now the rest of it, it's all house money for you. That's exactly what I want to hear. It's exactly how I want it to work. I know Robert, Robert was a member of the course, and he said, I think in the first 60 days, I sent him like $11,000. Dung Tai. Where's my buddy Dung Tai? Dung Tai, same thing. He fired his property manager because he's like, I can absolutely do this now that I've taken the course and I know exactly how to manage my property. He saved $6,000 a month. A month. Crazy. Robert Fernley, if I want to add a bedroom, is a septic tank expansion a guaranteed if you ask the town, or will they deny? Septic tank isn't about the town. It's about the state. That's the problem. The state will have you do a redesign, period, end of story. When they have you do that redesign, it will cost $1,500 to $1,800, period, end of story. Then they will either deny or approve it. And then you have to worry about setbacks of where that septic tank goes into. So if you have a decent amount of land, possible. If you don't have a decent amount of land, it's going to be really hard. And you likely will spend $1,500 to $1,800 getting plans done that have to be stamped by a design firm in order for them to be able to go to the state and even get asked. No joke. That rule changed big time in our state in the last, decade or so. SK, with multifamily paying coming in the next year, has the thought of a 1031 some of your fourplexes into bigger apartments in your area crossed your mind? Azuber says he went from 8 to 80 units. Yes. It has. The reason why I kind of hesitated in answering the question so it has crossed my mind. The biggest thing for me is what is that availability of credit going to be for those big assets, and how bad a shape are those assets in? So yeah, absolutely. I will trade out of assets. I have 2 assets that are going to be going up for sale in March. Trading out of those assets. I have a ton of equity in those assets. It's going to give me probably, let's just guess, it's going to give me about $500,000 to $600,000 that I can invest somewhere. And that 5 to 600 gives me 2 to 2 point. Yeah, we'll call it $2 million. It gives me buying power. 2 to 2.4 buying power is what that gives me. So maybe that's a number of small assets. Maybe that's one big asset. But if I'm buying that big asset, I'm buying it with amazing terms. Like we'll see what that money can buy me. Yep. And then if I don't have something amazing, I'll let the exchange fail and I'll pay my long-term capital gains, which is like 15%, because not all that's profit. How much of that's profit? Maybe, let's see. Maybe 200 of that's profit, but that means I'm writing a check for 30 grand for profit for 15% long-term capital gain. $30,000 for nothing. Don't love that. Don't love that. I have another strategy where I buy those assets and then I refi them and I give myself an interest-free loan. Fire Nice. So far, you don't have to go to court to evict feral cats in abandoned buildings, but I better not give away New York, California, Massachusetts, Washington, or any ideas. I know. True story. True story, Fire Nice. True story. Robert, see what their requirements are. Septic tends to be rated for a certain number of toilets. It's actually usually ranked for a number of bedrooms in our state. In our state, they say you have a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom plan. A house that is an asset that I looked at, it was a massive house. It was like 6,000 square feet. So it was huge. It's only rated for a 4 bedroom septic because of the land around it. They're like, it's a 4. That's the most it's going to be. Now, Can a 5th bedroom be put in there? Of course it can, but it can't be sold as a 5 bedroom. It can only be sold as a 4 bedroom. And likely you're going to tire your system out because it's designed for 4 people. Iron Workman, then they. Sorry, no worry. Lars Nielsen. Hey, Lars. Hi, Matt. Hope all's well. I'm excited to start the boot camp. Can you please give us an estimated time frame on how to choose a student market that's going to be out there? It is going to be in there. So it's been a constant delay. That's why I'm actually working with the team, the marketing team, to extend everybody's subscription to the Lumberjack Landlord. Everything is going to be extended. You guys are going to get free months because of it. I had a bunch of problems with the video. Long story short is it's not complete, but it will go up. I expected to finish it last week. The job is really getting in the way. But I will keep you guys posted. I do expect it within the next few weeks. I do. But yeah, that's when I expect it. So Lars, thank you guys very much. I appreciate your patience with me getting that to you guys. But yeah, the student housing market one, there was also some things that shifted. So from the time I recorded the first one to the time I recorded the last one, there were 2 things that shifted that I was going to have to scrap the original one anyway. And so, and actually this is the 3rd time I'm recording it. Actually, this is the 3rd time. This one's been a beast to get out. People don't want my knowledge. The world doesn't want to let it out. Let's see. Wealth building journey. However, we're not divulging all the secrets to Matt's course. For the real course, gold, you have to buy the course. Oh, thanks. Yeah, there's some stuff I certainly share for sure. I'm just asking when it will be released. Yep. Have to release. They will have to join to get the knowledge. Yes, absolutely. So totally. I totally understood the question. I appreciate you guys. What a good community. Really appreciate you guys. But yeah, Lars is 100% right. That actually, that piece of the course was one of our 31 modules. And that piece, I recorded it, and then we had issues with editing and it got lost. Then I recorded it again. Then some of that information became incorrect. So I was going to have to redo part of it anyway. I was like, we'll just redo it all from scratch. Over the holiday break, I did some of it over, some of the new stuff over scratch, but I didn't want to be mixing a video. So I was just like, we just have to do it from scratch. And at the same time, I've been working on the lead video for you guys. Lead video is something we'll sell separately, but we're going to actually have it in the course for you guys. If you're already in the course, you get the lead video. I don't want to, this isn't a money grab. We're not trying to get you to pay extra. I just want to have something else where somebody says, hey, I'm already an amazing landlord, but I really need to know what it's like to go through a lead order. Then we'll have that something separate for them. Buildy Bunch. I love the name. Welcome here. How do you analyze any deal to know what you need to do to make it work creatively? That's a great question. So for me, and I see I'm going a little bit long. Let me see here. Oh my goodness. Oh my good. Oh my good. Oh my word. All right. You're welcome, Lars. I will try and get through all these. I'll go until 1:30. That's what I'll do. Yeah, going from 8 beds to 12, Robert. Yeah, you're going to have a problem with that in all likelihood, unless you got a lot of land. But here's what you can do. When you talk to the person that does those plans, here's the best thing for you. Guess what? They're going to probably know. You can literally say, here's my lot. Here's my plan. This is what I want to accomplish. And they'll be able to flat out tell you, no way the state's going to approve that. Or yeah, they will for sure. Here's what you need to do. They have these self-contained pump systems where you might be able to get away with it, but that self-contained pump system is like 30 G's. Looked at it, went down the path. Let's see. So what would you need to do? So really, Buildy Bunch, again, welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. Really what you have to look at, Buildy Bunch, is it's again, still just return. So, when I look at any of those deals, as I analyze them, it still comes down to, so think about it like when we look at like a tenant, I don't care where they're getting their money from Section 8, from a job, doesn't matter. That piece doesn't matter to me. So it's the same thing with a deal. I don't care who's financing it. The only thing I need to make sure is that it meets my return on capital requirements. So I evaluate those deals. I can push and pull. There's levers and knobs. There's many more that you can push and pull and put and adjust. So when I look at any creative financing deal, My sole goal of looking at that creative financing deal is, yeah, it's great. Now I don't have to work with a bank and I don't have to go through all their crazy underwriting, but I still need to make sure that the return on capital, the ROC method, I still need to make sure that return on capital works for me. The only way that that works for me is I understand that other deals in my market are making me 8 or 10%. Does this make me at least that or more with favorable terms? In that case, that deal works all day long. But that's how I evaluate those deals in seller financing. In creative financing is just making sure that they still meet all of my requirements from a return on capital perspective and making sure that there's no adjustable rate or that I have to refinance the debt in 5 years because I can't tell the future. I have no idea what debt's going to cost in 5 years. SK, do you get your units to market rent when renewing a lease? Sometimes. Or to keep turnover low, how much percentage do you keep it low the market? I actually do Dion's binder method. We've been doing it for about 10 years or so. And I will actually say, hey, here's 2 or 3 units in the market that are kind of comparable to yours. And again, it's just because the clientele I'm dealing with is usually 20s and 30s, and they rather text than talk on the phone. It gives them time to think too. And so I'm just back and forth and I say, hey, here are 3 that are examples. They're all, $400 or $500 a more month rent for you. You've been a great tenant. Would love to keep you. Would love to have you not have to pack up all your stuff and move and do all that work because I know that that's expensive too. So if you can come back to me with a number, and again, I'm planting the seed there because I want to make sure that they're considering, hey, it's going to cost me money to move. It's going to take me time to move. It's going to be a pain in the ass to move. Then they get to fix what I call the bullshit to money ratio. I'm willing to take this much bullshit, but only for this much money. And if it's this much bullshit, I have to have that much money because if it's this much money and it's this much bullshit, then I leave. And so that's where I'm having that conversation with them just via text. Yep. And then I just say, just let me know. You can talk about it with your roommates, or you can talk about it with your wife or your husband or whoever it is I'm talking to, and just let me know what you guys think is fair. If they come back with 0, I just say, okay, sounds good. I won't be able to renew the lease at that number. So we'll expect to have you out at the end of the lease, which is the 30th of the month. And if you need anything from me, let me know. Thanks so much. And sometimes you're like, whoa, wait. What do you mean? I'll pay more. Well, then you're not really negotiating in good faith. So at that point, I'm going to get at least the number I thought I needed to get. So there's not a given percentage, especially when the leases are coming due in like May. Like that's my prime renting season. So I know I'll have 100 people in that unit in a weekend or 2 weekends in open houses, and I'll have it rented to one of 17 different people that have 5x the income. So it really is managing the option. But yeah, that's a piece. Wealth Building Bunch. Check out Zuber's courses under the one rental at a time umbrella. Yep. He covers that in there. That's kind of, but again, like when you're just looking at the numbers, underwrite it like you would any other deal. You just get to play with the stuff. Iron Workman. PI is a good idea. I never thought about this. You're welcome. That's what we do here. Good ideas. I bet some good ones know some tricks. They absolutely do. I was thinking lawyers. Thank you, Lumberjack. You're welcome. One of the best ways to find out things that you might not know is to hire a PI. There are a lot of times they're ex-cops. They still have a lot of connections. And more importantly, they have systems and access points that we don't have. A lot of times you can get them for $100, $150. And so, yeah, I've hired a PI quite a few times, and they get me all the information that I need. And I've actually put together deals where I couldn't find out who the owner of an asset was, found out who they were, was able to contact them when they were like, how did you contact me? I was like, man, that was tough. Cost me a lot of time and money. They laugh, and we put together a deal. So it does actually happen. Bill D. Bunch. Yep. There's the deep dive stuff. Very cool. Thank you, Chester. Would you recommend putting rental properties under an LLC? I don't. Or you put under a trust with liability coverage, stay at $300K per property. So SK, the way I've done it, and I don't, give you anybody this advice. You guys do what sleeps well at night for you. I actually will only do one thing. I put them in my trust. I have good insurance on them with a higher deductible, but I do good insurance. And then I have an umbrella. I'm actually going through the process and renegotiating my umbrella as we speak. Holy cow, it's expensive. Magnum PI has the info you want already and has a great stash too. That's true. Tom Selleck. Stud. Julie Anderson, you are the real estate god. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. Know a little bit about a little bit. But Julie, you're a great part of the community. I always appreciate you showing up and saying kind things. It's awesome. Tom Selleck still travels in a bubble helicopter. I know. I bet he does. That's so cool. I actually looked at planes for a long time because I really wanted a plane, and not like a G6, just literally like a single engine Cessna type of thing. And then the more and more I looked at it, I was like, helicopter. In New Hampshire, there's always bare fields everywhere. Like I could land in a bunch of different places. Can't do that in a plane. Plane, you need far too much runway. And there's a bunch of like, runways for airports all over the state that are like not really known. Kind of crazy because we have so much land, but a helicopter is so much better option. So for me, if I buy something, it's going to be a helicopter. The EAC estimate at completion schedule is critical for PMs. Yep. Property managers. Yep. Zimbabwe bonds pay 18%. I know. Yeah. How much did Weimar Republic bonds pay back in the day? Richard Trong. Hey, Richard. Good morning, all. I have an 1,896 square foot, 3 flat frame house in Chicago. Got it. Oh, 1896. So built in 1896. Got it. 3 flat frame house in Chicago. I want to add insulation in a finished unit. There is no house wrap for water or air barrier. Is that wrap needed before insulation? So you're doing that wrap on the outside. Usually that wrap on the outside, so there might not be the ability to put that wrap on the outside. However, you can still talk to what code enforcement would have you do. But in our area, what they do is you can put something like rock wool in the wall. And then you can do a vapor barrier on this side of it. So you can do plastic on this side of it, thus keeping, vapor from passing through the exterior wall and stopping at the interior wall. Sometimes, most times it's ideal where you do the house wrap on the outside, then you do insulation. That's usually what most of the new construction is going to have. I'm working. Really, most people that watch Magnum PI back in the day are old dogs like me. Yeah, 46. Hyder's 42. Yeah. Yep. USA, it ran in the early 2000s. It ran late at night. I can't tell you the number of sales reports I wrote with Magnum PI in the background. So I could hear it. I usually couldn't see it. Sometimes I would just lean back in my chair. I'd have it on my lap and I'd be tapping like this. And so I could look up and look and look up and look. And I was always looking for the Ferrari because that was before really cool cars made their appearance. That was kind of the bummer. Then they came out with that Viper series. That made me, as a kid, I wanted a Viper so bad. I ended up buying a Viper. Great car. Had so much fun with it. And then when I was getting married, I was also going broke. Not because of bad financial decisions, but because of the Great Recession. And so I literally had to sell. I just sell my car. I'd sell a couple cars to pay for my wife's wedding ring. Yep. T, do you provide washers and dryers and dishwashers in your units? I'm worried about abusive appliances and constant maintenance. T, that is a fantastic question. It really is. It really depends on what the market is in your market. So I like in Gary, Indiana, where my buddy Millennial Mike invests. In Gary, Indiana, he doesn't provide them. He doesn't, because he doesn't have to. People actually provide their own appliances. It's the culture there. And when you're buying a $40,000 house, like I can imagine, because a kitchen's $3,000 or $4,000, and boom, there you go. That's a 10% of the value of the house is just in the appliances. For me, in my market, they do come standard. Not so much washer and dryer or dishwasher, but when they do in the nicer units, they do come standard. So one of the things that we do is in the nicer units, we just provide them. In the not as nice of units, there'll be hookups and they can bring them. And so when I'm talking about a not so nice unit, like a $1,500 or $1,600 2-bedroom, as opposed to our $2,200 2-bedroom, our $2,200 2-bedroom has them, our $1,600 does not. Because at the $2,200, we know that we're gonna have to pay water and sewer, and water and sewer where we are is very expensive. So we have to be able to provide those machines to give us a leg up over our competition, because our competition doesn't have them. However, we recognize that in a more expensive unit, our water and sewer costs are going to be significantly more expensive providing those things. Real quick story on that regard. I actually had a friend of mine who is a cop. He actually got a water bill, and the water bill was $2,000 for one quarter. Typically, it was a $300 to $400 bill. Water here is really expensive. because it goes through all the treatment plants and all the old infrastructure, and they're trying to replace all that infrastructure. So anyway, my cop buddy has a place, $300 to $400 a month is his water bill, gets a new tenant. All of a sudden it's $2,000 a month. It's $2,000 a month. It's $2,000 a quarter. So one quarter he calls and they're like, no, we used it. So then he has a bunch of guys come over, take a look at everything. And they go, no, dude, you're good. Nope, no leaks. Everything looks righty tighty. It's all good. So he's like, that is so weird. So then he gets the next bill, $2,000 again, like $2,200. It was even more. He's like, what is going on over there? And so he actually, in between shifts, or excuse me, after a shift, he actually stops. He goes, goes over, checks it out, and not from a distance. So he's just looking at it from a distance. This is on like a Saturday. He's sitting there. What does he see? He sees that the woman is letting people into her property and actually has a sign that says, if you don't have pods, we have them available. She was selling them the pods to do their washes. And so he like goes and knocks on the door and she's like not answering. Finally, she answers. He's like, what's going on? She goes, nothing, just hanging out. He finds out that she's literally letting the neighborhood use her washer and dryer. So it was all legitimate washer. His electric bill went up, or the electric bill didn't go up as much. It was in her name, but she was making bank on this, and it was costing him like $2,200. He's like, literally the building is an entire loss for me just based on the water bill. I was like, well, of course it is. Like, that's crazy. So funny story, but yeah, that happened. So for me, it's looking at what your competition is doing. Cause I want to have a competitive advantage. So I do dishwashers and I buy a nice dishwasher, 52 decibel or quieter. So it's a really quiet machine. But when people come in and see our really nice units, they're like, man, this has everything. Washer, dryer. It has your dishwasher. This is awesome. Perfect. Let's see. All-nighter. Welcome, Richard. Wrap is important. Yeah. On an existing structure, working from the outside, I think insulation first and then wrap. Yep. Then finish. Yep. Exactly. On the same page. Let's see. It was so Ironwood Workman. That's exactly true. That was like an ABC, NBC something thing. But USA Network picked up Magnum PI later and they were playing it like 11, 12 o'clock at night. So I would watch it when I would do my reports. Robert Fernie, best I can get right now is a 7% at St. Mary's Bank, but only for the first $500. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's not 18. We all got to find Jay's bank. Wealth building J. The actual risk-free rate, treasury rate return on T-bills is less than a third of that fictitious number of 18%. Yeah, he's correct. All-Nighter Hider. As a kid, I watched all kinds of great shows. All in the Family, Golden Girls, WKRP, some classics. Yes, All in the Family was not something that I ever was allowed to watch. Now, seeing some of the episodes now, I can see why my mom was like, absolutely not. WKRP was cool. Golden Girls, that was a funny show. Yeah. Betty White, 99 years old. Unbelievable. And yes, I know she passed away. Don't tell people. Yeah, I won't tell people. I promise. T, what's the minimum flooring type to buy when you have to replace all flooring in a duplex? 2,200 square feet with limited funds. I would go with when you're only looking at 2,200 square feet, here's what I would do. I would call some other local companies, ask them if they have any closeout lots. I would also talk to your local lumber liquidators, ask them if they have any closeout lots. I found a product that was $8 a square foot. They were down to like their last couple thousand square feet in the company. So I bought it all. It let me do 2 apartment rentals and it was a good product. It was just a brand that was being discontinued. So you can go with flooring now, and flooring and insulation is $5 a foot. It's about $5 a foot. If you look at flooring and insulation, you're looking at probably 10 grand. Unless you go carpet and pad, and then you still might be close to that. And then you're going to have carpet and pad, which you're going to have to clean all the time and only has a 7-year lifespan anyway. So I would go with something that's more durable. That way you do it. It's done, said and done, set it and forget it. But yeah, if you want to hunt for deals, I would absolutely look at like a lumber liquidators on their closeout stuff. Just make sure they have enough square footage. And you want to account for at least 20% loss just in case, because you can't run out. But you can probably save, you might be able to get something at $7-8. The stuff that I bought was about that price, and I think I paid $340 a foot. So it was less than half is what I paid. That plastic flooring seems pretty good. Yep. Don't quote me, but I think some scratches can be heat treated and repaired that way. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. SK, do you find housing authority approving rent more or less than market rent you are able to rent directly to non-Section 8? Nope. No matter what, you can't directly rent to non-Section 8 or Section 8. Say again. As soon as when I was giving you my answer, I was actually having to rethink the question. Do you find housing authority approving rent more or less than market rent you are able to rent directly? It's right now, it's still less. What if I fill out paperwork with prospect tenant asking for rent not approved? So long as you are at FMR, that's where I had the conversation with housing before. When you call housing, you say, hey, I'd like to call and validate this person as a voucher. Great. This is what my rent is. You need to be going in with what your rent is, and it need to be higher. And then they will come back to you and they'll say, we can't do that number, but here's what we can do. That's what you want them to try to behave as. Some markets do that, some don't, but that's why you have to start that relationship with some HCV specialists at housing to make sure that you're getting the best rent that you can. And then you can always tell them, you know what, I just can't make that number work. I'm going to have to leave this one to market. Thank you very much for your help. Ironwood Workman, the wealth building journey. It is funny. I heard the calls like WKRP all the time. Yep. And now I cannot remember any of even if forgot how to use a landline phone, had to relearn it. I know. So funny, right? SK, can I cancel the paperwork and go with a regular tenant who will pay market rent higher than what the housing authority approves? So you can, if you've signed everything, like you've signed a lease and signed your HAP and all those stuff, it's not a done deal until everything is signed. Once it's all signed, you're going to be a little bit sticky on having to have that not happen. Tight grain, old growth lumber is way better than faster growth, loose grain lumber. Absolutely. And that's why you typically need more of it to do the same job. Scott and Deanna Ryan. Hey guys, just had a cash out refi appraisal, came in at 380 and an expected 450 on a 2-family. NOI, which is net operating income, is $4,400 a month. How many deals are destroyed by inaccurate appraisals? Underwriters influence appraisals. Underwriters do not influence appraisals. So I'm not coming down on you. Just want to make sure you're factually accurate. Underwriters do not have any influence on appraisals whatsoever. It's 100% the appraisers, 100%. How many deals get destroyed by inaccurate appraisals? 20%. I had a deal that a banker of mine was working on. They thought it was going to come in at 900. It came in at 585. And the seller was like, that's retarded. Sorry for the word. They're like, that's absurd. But that's the exact word they used. They're like, crazy. I was like, yeah, that's insane. Because I'd pay, I will take 10 of those at 585. Line them up. I'll buy them all. What they can do is that if it's FHA, you're in trouble. You're screwed. If it's FHA, that appraisal sticks with the property for at least 6 months. What you can do, and this is why I like working with local and small banks, is I tell them, nope, we're going to appraise it again. Now I have to pay again, but I'd rather pay $900 again and potentially have my real deal. And then I'm bringing comps, but I always do that. I completely tilt the scales in my favor. That's my job. I'm a businessman. So I show them, here's all the comps. These are ones I run. Here's why I believe they're all the same. And then that's what I do. That's what I do. And so then it's much more predictability. It's much more predictability over what number I'm going to get. Dimitri G, how much is the boot camp? It's $495 right now if you've bought the course. And it's going to $995 because it's more than worth it. It's more than worth it. It's usually 20 to 24 hours of me with other investors. You could not get that. If you were paying $100 to get, close to 2 hours to sit there and talk with me and with 15 or 18 other investors, that'd be cheap. Well, that's $1,200. But then there's all the pieces that go into it. We're able to specifically answer questions that we can answer some questions in the course, but it's the boot camp is really where all the magic happens on top of the course. Yeah, Scott and D, that was a great question. Yep. Yeah. 20% of those deals get blown up. I'm working. Framing is so simple. I'm always surprised at how many people mess it up. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Stuff snaps too. I know, load bearing walls, right, guys? SK, how's your distribution of source that funds your new acquisitions? Percent from W2, percent from cash out refi appreciation, percent from cash flow. No idea. I mean, it's a great question. Great question. What we're always looking to do, so kind of regardless, we don't really have a formula of how we get there. When it comes to creating funds, what we really do is manage the business. And so if we see some asset that there's a ton of capital in or a ton of equity in, we say, okay, are we better off refi cashing? Are we better off just selling the asset outright? We do sell assets because we trade up, so we're not married to all of our assets. There's some that would be harder to sell than others, but we're not married to any of our assets. We want the best performing, and the best performing is the way that we kind of do it. So no percentages. Great question. Just no percentages. Thank you for helping share your experiences with us. Ninja Vanish 24/7. Oh, you guys are welcome. I love spending time with you guys. Just think like a bricklayer. Everything should carry a load, even the inner walls. This makes it all feel solid. Absolutely 1000%. And here in the Northeast, we have something called balloon frames, which are scarier than scary. But we still do them. We still do a ton of them. The septic is on a 1 acre lot. You shouldn't have a problem. What I would do is I would talk to somebody that does septic design, just Google septic design, because they're going to need to be able to stamp those drawings, but then give them a lot number. They might ask you for a survey, which is then going to cost you $4 or $5 grand. So you just want to get a lot number, give it to them and say, here's the address, and send them the tax map. Send them that and say, my hope is to get, right now it's 8 and whatever, and it's going to go to 12 and whatever. And then they'll look at it and they'll say, maybe it's just leaving the existing system there and then just adding another system. That might be cheaper than changing the one that's already there. So you have some options. But that's what I would do. I would give them the tax map. I would give them the address. And then I would just ask them, take a look at this. Is this something that would get approved? If not, why not? And if not, why not? Is there some way to get it approved that we do something special? Then they might talk to you about the fully insulated systems, which is it needs to be then pumped like every 2 months or 3 months. Might still be worth it to you cash flow financially, might not be. Let's see. Oscar, look. Hi, all. Hi, Oscar. Good to have you here. The Yoder, do you have to take the course before you join the boot camp? So you don't have to take the course before you join the boot camp. I recommend taking at least that week's course. So if you're week 3 of the boot camp, you at least want to look at week 3, because we start off with any questions that anybody had about that week 3 lessons, those modules. But then honestly, after like 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes of questions, then we get into an hour and a half of talking about a deal, a problem somebody's having, a project that somebody wants to do that they want to set a second set of eyes to. We do all of that stuff in the boot camp. So the first 15, 20 minutes of it, maybe half hour of it, is asking questions about what the lesson was that week. So I would just refresh and watch that lesson that week. But a majority of the time in those is like this, except it's limited to only 15 people. Everybody's on screen, able to share their experiences. There's other feedbacks. It's awesome. It's really, truly like a mastermind. It's pretty awesome. I will be a future, oh shit, I'm a landlord now. What? Alumni. I currently have a lot on my plate, i.e. clean up to free up time. Totally understand. Would love to have you, Yoder. Yeah, 1K for the course and 500 to add on the boot camp. Yep. I'm rounding up because I'm lazy. It's all right. It's only $5 difference. Julie Anderson, I fear hyperinflation, even 18% would be enough. True story. Lars, you're welcome. Going from the 8 to the 12 bedrooms. Cool. All right. I'll squeeze in a couple more of these because I'm already super late anyway. My son and I are going to watch some hockey. Watched hockey last night. Domination by my Bruins of the Montreal Canadiens. Sackless. 9 to 4. You have no pride. You have no honor. They took it from you. Yeah, super passionate in this house. All-nighter. Julie, the dollar is far from hyperinflation. Yep, exactly. The dollar network. I think what she's saying, Hyder. Not hyper. What she's saying, Hyder, is that if we get to hyperinflation, then that should be enough. Julie Anderson, in the 1980s, it was a 16% give or take. Yep, people do not know how good they had it. Yeah, true story, right? Jack Stewart. Hey, Jack, welcome. I finished it last week, and I believe it saved me from a mistake. I found a fourplex that was caught up in a fire, and if it wasn't for you in the course, would have bought a pain in the ass property, Class D for sure. Jack, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for saying so. I'm glad that you took the course. I'm glad that you find value, and I'm glad that it saved you. That's what it's there for. Guys, I spent 20 years learning lessons and paying for all of them myself. That's it. If you want to look at it in a weird and twisted way, selling the course is helping me get all of my mistake money back. I made millions of dollars in mistakes in building my business. I just want to save other people from making that same mistake. And there's value to that. So Jack, appreciate you. Thank you very much for the comment. All-nighter hider. Brent Johnson explains his dollar milkshake theory. Yep. And how hyperinflation is very far away. Milkshakes, markets, madness, and is the channel. I've seen that milkshake theory. I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I'm a workman. I like to see rates move slowly. Yep. I do not like the shock to the system. Yeah, that's the problem, right? It's definitely a problem. Great share, Jack. Winner. Yeah, hider. I totally agree. Great share, Jack. I appreciate you. Emma Capley. Good afternoon, everyone. Emma is one of my agents. She's absolutely fantastic. She got yesterday. She set up for a bunch of appraisals yesterday or a bunch of appointments yesterday for coming and seeing a unit. And it was just clearly it was a bad day. I think 4 out of 5 canceled. It was really cold yesterday. So a bunch of people chickened out. I didn't realize how bad my phone butchered my last message. Sorry. Basically, I bought the course and Matt saved me from getting a Class D pain in the ass property that the numbers were awesome, but not worth it. See, and that's so important, guys. So important, right? Like we all look at these deals and evaluate their deals and we're like, holy cow, like this deal is going to print money. And then there's something to it, right? So one of the things I think Jack had talked about was that it was a fire property. One of the things to look at in fire properties is if the board's just black, it's not a bad thing. If it's charred is where insurance and the inspector is going to make you swap them out. So people are like, so there's fire damage. Fire damage has many, 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 many different levels because even if the board is black, you're still going to need to paint it and have some sort of a sealant on there to keep the smell in. That way, when it's wet or if it gets wet for some reason, way, shape, or form, your house is going to stink like it had a fire. So I've dealt with fire damage. The rule was if it's charred, you got to replace it. If it's just black in color, then you can just spray it. I can tell you, I went down the path and I was like, yeah, I think this deal is a killer. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Killer in a good way. And so I did the deal and it cost me more than I expected. Still ended up being a great deal, but not a killer deal. That was solely based on the difference between charring and blacking. True story. Boomer 1964. How's the Lambo search going? They've come down. They have come down significantly. Excuse me. I think they're going to come down a lot more. Because now all these churro people and all these people that were running these, exotic car rental places are now being forced to get the right kind of insurances and their business model doesn't work with the expensive insurance. So there's definitely going to be an opportunity to get me a cheap Lambo. What I'm actually doing is I'm looking for an interim car. Or swapping out the model that I have. So for those of you who don't know, I was in jury duty last week. When I was in jury duty, I was driving my truck to and from, or my Yukon to and from. Literally, I hear Millennial Mike in my ear when I turned my truck on that morning. It was 12 degrees outside and it had snowed. Had everything scraped off. Also was using my defroster. My defroster stopped working. So it was dicey getting to work on time, or getting to court on time. But then I literally said to my wife and I was like, I need to buy something where at least everything works. So that's what I got to do. So I'm going to get something else too. I was looking at Cybertrucks, but no one will sell me theirs yet. Fire and Ice. Dear Lord, I'm probably the oldest person on the board. I mean, maybe. That's all right. Most experienced. That's okay. Boomer just turned 60 on Friday. Not as bad as I thought. See, congratulations. Happy birthday, Boomer. Good to see you, Don. Good for you. Yeah, 56. Fire and Ice got you beat. Nice. That's awesome. 4 years. Fire and Ice, 64. Okay. I think Harry. Where's Harry? Where's my buddy Harry? Harry, I want to say, is 70 something. And he's looking at investing in real estate. He has some property. Harry, where are you, buddy? Miss you. Lumberjack Landlord course alumnus. Let's see. Fire and Ice, semi-retired from IT and used to work at rather large housing authority for Section 8. I have stories that would make your skin crawl. Fire and Ice, send me an email. I want to get you on. If you used to work for Section 8, I want to get you on. I want us to do something together and talk. Send me an email, lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. Yeah, she was running a lumberjack. She was literally running a laundromat out of her house. Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. Yep. How often should I have my septic system serviced? That's a great question. What I do is I have it, it's usually every other year. So what I do is I have a company come out and then I had them take a look at it. And usually it's been 2 or 3 years. And so I've had them come out. That's usually been 2 or 3 years. They're like, nope, everything's good. We did our cleaning, blah, blah, blah. So then if none of the use changes, then I'm like, okay, cool. Like every 2 or 3 years clearly is good enough. But I wouldn't have it go more than 2 years. That's for me. Depends on the age of the system. Absolutely. The number of people in the house. 100%. Every 2 years. There you go. Fire and Ice says it. Yep. Every 2 years is usually good enough because also you have to figure that the number of rooms is what's correlated to the use. Right. So that's what I usually do. What's your Joshua Melby? Hey, Joshua, thank you for coming and hanging out. What's your go-to for window coverings? Believe it or not, it's the Home Depot, not blackout shades, but the accordion ones with no string, because I don't want hanging hazards. They're higher quality. And if a tenant ruins it, I bill them on their deposit when they leave and I just replace them. But they're nice. They're nice looking. They're readily available. We usually go for them in snowflake white, easy for me to say, but yeah, that's true. So whatever the home, I think it's like home collection, but whatever their cordless, light blocking, snowflake white, is what we typically use. And then sometimes we'll have somebody that works like third shift and they say, hey, is there any way that you can put blackout shades in my thing? And if they've signed a 2-year lease, I'll usually do it because it's usually like 3 windows. And that means I'm going to spend an extra, I don't know, a couple $100 over 2 years. I don't care. It's fine. Our Workman, Bridex is one type. It helps a lot. If you use bleach, yep. Help eats the waste. Yep. Bridex is good. Yeah. They had, I got with using a product like that, I got, 37 years out of a septic system. Don't build them like they used to. Yeah. It looks like septic is its own ecosystem. Excuse me. We don't have any investment property on wells or septic, only public water and sewer. We only have septic well on our own personal home. Yeah. So we have it here. We have it on a couple of our investment properties. Kind of a challenge. It's a big expense, right? And that's where it's like, that's where you have to get the higher rents, because if the person was only there for a year, then they're not going to pay when I have to get the thing serviced in a year. Same thing for the well. So yeah. Lumberjack Landlord. Make sure you take zinc, vitamin C, and D to boost your immune system. Yes, yes, and yes. I actually take zinc every day. I do. Guys, So Tesla won't allow anybody to resell their Cybertrucks within a year of purchase, or it's a $50,000 fine and a threat of a permanent block on them being able to get a Tesla on all Teslas. So yes, so I've seen that. The good news is that eventually find one. But the other something, and because the thing for me is that, so that was kind of cool. And I only do around town driving really much anymore. And just looking at properties and stuff. So we'll find the right thing. We'll find the right one for sure. Putting buyers under contract is a huge red flag. What is Tesla thinking? I know that's going to be a problem. Vitamin D is a must in New Hampshire during the winter, even if not sick. True story. Robert Farrell, fellow New Hampshireite, fellow Granite Stater. We're inside a lot in the wintertime. A lot. Yep. Because it's so frigid cold for like 2 months out of the year. And we've kind of started to hit that now. We've had a couple little snow squalls. The first one was more than a squall. First one was like almost a foot. The next one was only like 3 inches, but now it's really cold. So I hope you guys have a fantastic week. As we always try and do, we always try and create great content for you here on the channel. I'm so excited you guys came by, hung out. Thanks for the assistance with Jay. And I hope you guys all have a very fantastic week. And let's see, next Sunday is the next thing that we're on the plate for. And we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.